Hi everyone, welcome back to Liars Academy. I'm excited you are here. If you're a new subscriber, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you've been here before, make sure you enjoy watching the videos and leave your likes and comments on the videos. Good news, interesting news. I've actually been thinking about how to make learning IT audits more relatable for people. Sometimes when we only explain audit concepts using definitions or using audit terms, it could be difficult for beginners to understand how everything comes together in a real environment, in a real working environment. So I decided to start creating a short story style video series that will bring this concept to life, like the struggles of people transitioning into IT audit career, people, getting rejections from their interviews and all. So instead of only telling you what a control is, you will see like a workplace situation from these short stories. You will see the people that are involved. You will see like, relatable things, okay? And then you will learn how an auditor should actually think through a situation. Please make sure you take some time to watch the story series. I have linked it in the description of this video. I believe it will help you connect with what you're learning, and also to the situations you may eventually face as maybe a career transitioner into IT auditor or into IT audit career, or a beginner, or even if you're already in the IT audit profession. So let's move into today's lesson. Today's video might be a little bit long because I will be teaching an end-to-end process for SOX 404 testing. By the end of this video, you should understand what SOX 404 testing means, what auditors are trying to achieve, how we test the design and operating effectiveness, how we evaluate exceptions, and how we reach a clear and properly supported conclusion. Even if you're preparing specifically for an IT audit role, you do not you need to kind of understand like SOX 404, because it will help you and give you the bigger picture. It helps you understand why organizations, test the controls they test: access, change, automated controls, system reports, reconciliations, and many other controls that support financial reporting. The entire lesson today can be brought back to just two simple questions. One is: a control designed properly? Does the control actually operate as designed? So is the control designed properly, and is it operating effectively? So let's get right into it and break it down together. Before I go ahead, let me go ahead and ask, what is SOX 404? I know I've talked about SOX 404 in my previous videos. You can look for those videos. I'll also put the title in the description so you can learn from it. So SOX 404 is a regulatory requirement that requires management to assess whether the company's internal controls over financial reporting are effective. Um, and then what are internal controls over financial report? They are the policies, the procedures, the approvals, like system configurations and other activities that helps an organization produce their accurate and reliable financial statements. Okay. Now again, the central question here is this: can the management trust the controls behind the financial statements? For example, can management trust that the revenue they are recording is recorded accurately? Can management trust that only authorized people can actually post their journal entries? Can they trust the bank reconciliations are completed and reviewed? Okay. So, and can they also trust that like there are no unauthorized changes being introduced into the systems and the process that supports financial reporting? SOX 404 is not satisfied. Like, it's not done because a company says that it has a control. It's not just because, oh, they want to say, oh, we have a control. They must be able to demonstrate, the company must be able to demonstrate through the evidence that they collect, that those controls are properly designed and they are also operating effectively. And this is going to bring us down to two important concepts. The first one is design effectiveness. And what does this mean? It means like asking whether like this control is capable of mitigating or mitigating the identified risk or preventing or detecting identified risks. Okay, while in simple terms, what this means is, could this control work if they perform them exactly as it is written? While the second concept here is operating effectiveness. Operating effectiveness asks whether the control actually happened throughout the audit period. Okay. I would not go into more details. If you want more details about this, you can check my IT Audit Fundamentals manual and you get the full details. Now, let's go to the question, why SOX 404? Like, why SOX 404? Okay. Again, it helps support accurate and complete financial reporting. It prevents or detect material misstatement, helps identify control gaps, and build confidence. Okay, so these are the reasons why we have we test SOX 404, not just because the organization wants to do it, but to help support their reliable financial reporting. Now let's go here. What is usually involved in SOX 404 when we say what falls into scope? Okay, yeah, we are looking at what we test. What exactly are we testing when we are testing SOX 404? It is not every department, process, system, or control would receive the same level of testing. Okay, it is actually driven by the financial reporting risk. The higher the financial reporting risk, the more controls you would have around it. Okay, so majorly the process begins around like significant account disclosures. This may include areas such as revenue, cash, inventory, payroll, and other things like that. Okay. So the organization would consider which accounts and disclosures could actually contain material misstatements. Okay. And then from there, they identify the business processes that affect those accounts. A good example, like maybe you're looking at how revenue may be connected to sales orders and thereabout. The next step is identifying the controls within those processes that address the financial reporting risk. And the scope could include manual controls, automated controls, or entity level controls, or IT general controls. Okay, so these are some of the other controls. Again, if you want more detailed explanation on this controls, I spoke extensively about them in my IT audit fundamental manual. Now let's go to the next slide. Now, this is where it comes. What is the main SOX 404 testing process? This slide you are looking at here gives us the full testing process, end-to-end process. Okay, I'm going to talk briefly about each of them. The first step is to understand the business and the process. If you don't understand the business and the process, how do you know what you want to test? Before you test a control, you must understand how the process works, who initiates the transaction, who is in charge of what, who approves it, which system processes. Okay, where could an error go wrong, things like that. Once you are done with that, then the second step is to identify the financial reporting risk. Again, remember SOX 404 is testing internal controls over financial reporting. So once you understand the process and you're asking what could go wrong, you're now tying it back to the financial reporting risk. Okay, a key control, like you would have a key control that the management will rely upon to address important financial reporting risks. And then as an IT auditor, you connect each of these risks to the controls that are expected to prevent or detect it. And then the third step, identify and document key controls. That's what I just talked about. Once you identify the financial reporting risk, you identify controls that you can use to mitigate those risks. And then that's when you go to your test of design effectiveness. Like I explained earlier, before testing whether a control operated, the auditor asks whether the control was properly designed in the first place. Okay, is it designed to control or mitigate the risk? And then you go to the test of operating effectiveness. Talking about the test of operating effectiveness, what you are looking, once you have determined that the control is properly designed, the next question is whether it is operating consistently in the right frequency throughout the period. Okay, and then that's a whole process. Again, you can join my 5-day live guided training where I explain all this in detail, and talk about test of operating effectiveness and test of design and how you would do that. And then the next step is evaluation of the results. Once you've done your test of design, your test of operating effectiveness, the next step is to evaluate your results and identify if there are any deficiencies. When an exception is identified, you need to understand what happened. So you do that evaluation and you document that, which is the last step. You report that finding. Once you report the findings, you start putting in place a management action plan to remediate this. You make sure you follow up to make sure like whatever it is addressed if eventually. Okay, so this is like design effectiveness step to step, what you would do or what you would test. Okay, again, remember design effectiveness is, could this control prevent or detect the risk if it is performed as written? Okay, and these are some of the things you look out for. You check, make sure like you have the control objective, make sure it's the right person who owns the design and performs it, the frequency, the review and all that. Okay, and then these are some of the common evidence. You start with your walkthrough, check policies and procedures, check your risk control matrix, your system configuration, and all. Again, remember, a control can be performed every month and still be poorly designed. So sometimes when you have a deficiency, it might not be that it was not operating effectively. You might need to go back to the control design to look at if it was designed correctly, or maybe the design needs to be changed. Okay, and now for operating effectiveness, this is where you are asking the question, did the control happen? Was it the right person that performed the control? Was it performed at the right time? And then do we have enough evidence? Okay, so these are some of the things, testing. You get your population, your sample, and all that. So this is operating effectiveness. Again, remember, in audit, you making enquiries alone is not enough. You must be able to support every of your conclusion with the right examples, or with the right evidence rather. Okay, now let's talk about this is a practical example of a workflow whereby you identify risks, the control, what you are testing, and the evidence you are gathering. So the risk here is revenue is recorded incorrectly or without support. What is the control that is being put in place? Sales orders are approved and match to pricing, shipment, and invoice data before recognition. So you test and make sure that you get the evidence of approved sales order, the price list, and all that. Okay, as an auditor, you are not only checking that the documents exist, you are also checking that the control was performed and that the evidence supports the conclusion. Okay. Um Now let's go to, again. At what point do you conclude that a control is effective? Okay, this is just a simple formula. Okay, so design effectiveness plus operating effectiveness equals an effective control. Both parts of it must be supported. When design effectiveness passes and operating effectiveness also passes, then the control may be concluded as effective. This means that the control is capable of addressing the risk or mitigating the risk, and the evidence that you have shows that it operated as designed throughout the period. Now, let's consider a control that fails design effectively but appears to have been performed consistently. The control is not effective. So if design effectiveness fails, then the control eventually is not effective. I have a lot of examples on this in my IT Audit Fundamentals Manual. You can click the link in my bio to get a copy where I went into details on all this and also gave practical examples. Okay. Now, expectation testing exception is not okay. So sometimes when you test and it fails or you have an exception, it is not actually or automatic. You don't conclude automatically that is a material weakness. Okay. Sometimes it might be like a misstatement. You might have to go back and get more samples to test. There might be compensating controls or something must have gone on. So you need to make sure that you dig deep and not just conclude that a testing exception, the controls you test, even though it had an exception, that it's a material weakness. Okay, sometimes it might be evidence, lack of enough evidence, and you need to just request for more evidence to get that. Now, I think this is kind of like the final part of your SOX testing process, where you document what you do. Make sure your documentation is very, very strong. A strong work paper should allow a reviewer to understand what you tested, how you tested it, what evidence you inspected, and what exceptions you found while you were testing, and also how you arrived at your conclusion. Okay, I think in the last video I did last week, I used a structure, an acronym RCETC, where that stands for risk, control, evidence, test, and conclusion. So first identify your risk and put that in place. So these are the core documentations that support a strong conclusion. Okay, now who is responsible for what? Let's talk about this. Who is responsible for what we are doing? Okay, so management, they are the ones that will design, implement, operate, and assess and remediate the controls. We have the internal audit team. They would independently evaluate controls and advise within that this thing. We have the external auditors. They're the ones that come in and audit ICFR, internal control over financial reporting where required, and they express an opinion. Okay, and then we have the audit committee. Okay, so sometimes the control ownership will stay with management even when there's an internal audit or external auditor performing the testing. These are some of the common challenges and best practices that you can, get. Sometimes incomplete evidence, maybe there are complex system dependencies, nobody is owning the controls, or there are manual controls without proof and all that, or like a control failed and you're not remediating it in a timely manner. Okay, so these are for best practices. Define your evidence expectations early. Make sure you understand the process, the control flow. Make sure there is ownership of the controls. Have standardized templates and all that. Okay, before I conclude, this is just like a checklist you should take for your SOX for audit. Okay, understand the process, identify material risk, confirm the key controls, perform your walkthrough, assess design effectiveness and operating effectiveness, define your population sample, test operating effectiveness, evaluate your exceptions and severity, and conclude your report and follow up. Okay, please know that SOX 404 testing is not about collecting documents. It is about proving that the right controls are designed and that they are well performed consistently and supported by evidence. Again, for beginner friendly IT audit lessons, subscribe to this channel if you are yet to, because I'm going to be doing more of this teaching series. Also, feel free to join my IT audit community. Feel free to reach out to me through your comments. Send me a message. I'll respond to your message. If you'd like to join my 5-day guided live guided training, please reach out to me and I'll send you the details. I also think I have the link in my Nestuge store. I am looking forward to you, everybody, understanding this career path and being able to transition and enjoy the benefits, which includes 6-figure salaries, career progression, career growth. It is a career where you can grow, learn, and make so much money and be fulfilled in that area. I'm looking forward to see you in my next video. My name is Layo, founder of Liars Academy.